us about why you discovered raw foods, and once you discovered raw foods, what motivated you to keep eating raw foods?
Well, it's kind of a little bit of a pathway here. I started off my life as a fairly young alcoholic, drug addict.
Wow.
Yeah,
Seriously.
smoking a couple packs of cigarettes a day.
You look so clean cut. I can't believe it's like another lifetime for you.
Oh, I started smoking at 13, started stealing
gosh.
alcohol at 13, and so my junior high and high school career were pretty much just about the party. I went straight out of high school, straight to college. I went to Sonoma State, and I was 17 years old, and I like to say I couldn't, after about 3 years I had to drop out of school because I couldn't juggle full-time work, full-time school, and full-time partying. So school had to go, right? So I was a mess. I was absolutely a mess, from Burger King 2 or 3 times a day to literally I could drink. I'll save you the drunk-a-log.
No. I'm sure people, that's like, it's fascinating to people. It's more fascinating to hear, you know, where you've come from, you know, the fact that you would eat Burger King, the fact that, you know, alcohol, that you had a relationship to alcohol, this addictive relationship.
A good relationship. I mean, it was easily a gallon of beer a day or more, or harder stuff. So plus the cigarettes and the drugs. I was a speed addict and a bunch of other recreationals. So
this is amazing. There must be some event that hinges on all of this that really changed you in some way.
Well, yeah, you know, several is a series of events. So as far as being a substance abuser, it was, even though I was using, I had the foresight to see where I was headed, and I was blacking out in my early 20s, 20, 21 years old, already a blackout drinker, and a decade later of struggling and trying to find it out and really being uncomfortable almost every time I ate. I decided to look back. Actually, I guess I fell back on my AA training, which was in a program, in a 12-step program. When you join, you're supposed to get a sponsor. And when you look for your sponsor, they say, find somebody who has what you want. In other words, find somebody who's living the life you want to live, and then take advice from that person, right? So I went through my friend Rolodex in my head, and I landed on one of my best friends. Her name's Allegra, and she was discovering raw foods at that time, and she was the one we all giggled at because she carried, you know, her own food everywhere, and 90% of the time it was liquid and green and in a jar, you know, so we were all like, oh, and she's paying for like these $300 colon cleanses, and she's crazy, right? But she was beautiful, had the skin I wanted, she was vibrant, she had the energy, the spirituality, all the stuff that I wanted, and I called her up and said, can you help me?
Wow. So,
but I went raw overnight. I did the 28-day colon cleanse.
Right, from Cleanse and Purify Thyself.
Absolutely, but read the book. The cleanse has you doing enemas every day. And so after 28 days of staring at my bathroom ceiling, first thing I did was paint my entire house after staring at my bathroom ceiling, which was kind of like a cleanse. And then I left the clinic where I'd been working for about 14 years at that point. And I just couldn't take their energy anymore around food, and they weren't understanding the transition I was making with raw food. They actually did an intervention on me.
You're kidding me.
No, it was like I was a drug addict because I was eating raw food. So I had a staff of 14 women in tears talking about my I had to go to the bathroom, pray. I was like, okay, is this my eating disorder come back? Did I find a way to lie to myself this thickly? And got some clarity, and got up and went back and thanked them all for their concern, and said,
good
sorry,
you.
you know.
Good for
so
you.
I left the clinic and became a colon therapist.
Woohoo! Woohoo! All right.
Yeah, so that's a long story. And that was in 1999.
Okay.
So I haven't been raw 100% this whole time. I was raw for about 3 years, and I don't think I was doing it the smartest way. I did it, like I said, overnight, and I was still pretty steeped in kind of an eating disorder mentality. So it was about how little can I eat. It was about how thin can I get. I had several really incredible, beautiful, strong, raw women as friends, and behind the curtain they were as messed up as I was about the food. So it was this really interesting thing. So I made it about 3 years and fell off my high raw horse into a big pile of flour and sugar.
Wow.
And battled. I put on 30 pounds in less than a month
when
I jumped off that. And that was mortifying, and I was very sick, again, really fast.
Okay.
So I battled for a few years, and I think we've basically been raw this time about 2 years.
Okay.
But the whole time I knew raw was where I wanted to be, and it was just torture, the struggle. Green vegetable juice, which is just incredible.
What is in your green vegetable
GVJ. Our GVJ is, I have to act it out. So there's ginger.
Right on, I want to see that.
So there's ginger and parsley, and we're talking bunches of parsley and cilantro and Swiss chard and romaine and spinach and celery and apple and lime juice.
That is
Did I miss anything?
seriously green juice. Do you
It
at least
is
use...
like atomic green. It's so beautiful.
Right on. And is it green apples too?
Mm-hmm. And it's not, it is, well, it depends, but more often than not, and it's not very many apples. There's probably one apple per quart.
Wow.
It's piles of greens. What we're playing with when we're doing a colonic, obviously, and it looks like here's 4 separate organs: esophagus, stomach, small intestine, and large intestine, also the colon, also the bowel, but it's really one long tube. So you could take the rectum, take the esophagus, pull them, and get a 30-foot tube. Right?
Right.
Anything that you've eaten that's inside this tube is actually considered separate from you, technically, until you break it down small enough to pull into your bloodstream. So every single thing that you eat ends up in your bloodstream. And that includes anything that your body's trying to get rid of if it's landing in your colon at a faster rate than your colon can eliminate it. I call it dirty fishbowl syndrome. It's like if you had a fishbowl and you didn't change the water, and the little fish have their poop rotting at the bottom, and the food they didn't eat is rotting at the bottom, and basically you're watching the water get dirty. So you're watching the pH change, and at the same time you're watching the health of the fish decline.
I just want to say, you have like a beautifully healthy fish and a really clear fishbowl over here. Just use that analogy.
Well, how do you think I came up with that analogy? And the other thing too is, even in a clean fishbowl like that, whatever it is that turns into that gunky algae that shows up in a dirty bowl is in there. You just don't notice it. So water comes in from outside plumbing sources.
Okay.
Goes through some heavy filtration.
And it's ultraviolet, carbon filter.
First it goes through 1 micron particle filters, which takes out anything larger than a micron, which is 1/100,000th of an inch. Goes through ceramic, charcoal, and then ultraviolet light.
Fantastic. So really well purified before it enters into the person.
So that's the water story.
And this whole setup is, people really wonder about this, what's going on with this. So it's good that we're seeing this.
So fresh ones for each client. We're not reusing them.
Right, that's important. Hygienic.
Okay, so this thin tube is the fresh water, and it's going to attach there. And I'm going to get usually the water started so that the temperature is appropriate when we're ready to start. This is the cleaning system, so I'm going to disengage that.
This really takes the mystery out of it for people. When I gave colonics, people literally thought I was going to walk in with a raincoat on and like
hazmat
somehow,
suit.
yeah,
So
have a big hose, that kind of thing. This
is the waste flow tube, and I'm just lubing it up so it goes on smoothly. So it's going to attach here. So once we're actually in process and you're releasing, what you're releasing goes through this backlit, slightly magnified viewing tube.
Is it really slightly magnified?
Very slightly, yeah.
I never knew that about it, because I think that's one thing that people are drawn to and kind of like, I don't want to say repulsed, but they just can't believe that you could have a viewing tube, you could watch everything come out of your body.
Well, and most people, not most people, some people will say, I can't watch, and I laugh, because within 1 or 2 fills and releases, they're like pushing me out of the way so they can get a better look.
Exactly,
okay.
It's so classic.
He's now teaching this information all around the Bay region, from San Ramon to Cloverdale, from Jenner Lake on the coast to Red Bluff north of Sacramento. He knows he's a good teacher, but he feels the real reason that people attend his class is because of what they learn about themselves. The title of his talk is the same as the title of his recently released book, Making Your Mind Magnificent, Flourishing at Any Age, and he's promised me that I will leave here tonight with at least 2 ways of thinking differently.